Hello and welcome to the GMS Magazine channel. I am Paco Garcia, your host, and this is the RPG Interview Room, the show in which I am lucky enough to get together with some of the best people in the world of role-playing games and ask them a ton of questions about their projects, both past, present and future. Today I have with me Diogo Nogueira, who is probably the best known Brazilian author outside Brazil. Because as I found out, and so will you if you stick with this interview for a few minutes, there is a very vibrant community of role players, both creators and players in Brazil, that quite frankly we don't know enough about. Diogo's been written for ages and ages and ages and has a pretty interesting collection of games on his back. So I had to ask a little bit because, well, with role-playing games being another art form, they are very much influenced by ourselves as persons and therefore influenced by our surroundings, our upbringings, our beliefs, our cultures, etc., etc. And I wanted to know how that has affected Diogo and his games. So it was a very, very interesting interview that I am going to tell you very little else about because I would love you to hear and listen to it. Meanwhile, if you're listening to the podcast of this show, please leave us a review in iTunes or whatever it is that you're listening, because that helps visibility an awful lot. And if you're watching the interview in the YouTube channel, firstly, thank you very much indeed for being there as well. And leave us a comment down there in the show notes. It's very much appreciated, truly is. But other than that, please help our Patreon campaign if you can. It's just a couple of dollars a month, and it truly helps us get all this equipment and all these podcasts and videos going. And it genuinely is very appreciated. Just a couple of dollars makes a difference. So thank you very much indeed if you can. But now, here is Diogo Nogueira. Diogo, welcome to the show. This is the first time that I have the pleasure of your company in the interview room. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure talking about games. And
well, I was quite glad when you said hi in Twitter, because a friend of mine, somebody I absolutely adore, my friend Roberto Micheli, speaks very, very highly of you. And your games. So I thought, oh, okay, yeah, this is somebody worth talking to. If Roberto recommends him, then yeah, definitely a good one. But we have never spoken before, so we need to know, make sure that you're not a politician and you can answer questions. So so I have 5 initial questions just to help us, get kind of in the mood of interview.
Boil the gears, yes.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So okay. Question number 1: tea or coffee?
If I like coffee
or tea?
Yeah, I like coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very hot here in Brazil, and but I still drink coffee. And I started drinking this iced coffee. Like I pour some ice cubes and some milk and coffee on top, and it's very refreshing. But I still get my caffeine. I really like coffee. Yes,
good.
I didn't like before. Like I started drinking coffee 10 years ago, but I hated it before.
Well, I used to. I have to say, I used to drink it just because of the caffeine purely. I didn't like it at all. And then I opened a game cafe and I went to a barista course, and they taught me to actually appreciate coffee. And now if people give me a bad cup of coffee, I'll just not for me. Okay. Question number 2: the beach or the mountain?
Oh, the mountain. I live in Rio de Janeiro, so there's lots of beaches. So I'm kind of tired of beaches. So I want to go to the mountains. It's too hot here. The mountains have a cooler climate, and because here, like, you're going to meet someone and you take a shower and you go outside and you're already sweating a lot and you feel like you need another shower. So yes, I prefer the mountain.
Okay, fair enough indeed. Okay, cars or motorbikes?
I never drove a motorbike. I really would like to, but my family is like against me trying that because it's dangerous and stuff. But I really like the looks of it, like a Harley Davidson kind of bike, like a leather jacket, and just driving, listening to Born to Be Wild or something. It must be really cool.
That's fair enough indeed. Okay, this is a little bit harder one. Fantasy or science fiction?
Mm. Well, I really like fantasy pulp, like in the beginning, the literature of the 30s to 50s, and they really didn't have like a split between fantasy and sci-fi, right? So you would have a barbarian and you could find a spaceship or something, or some aliens. So I like this kind of fantasy that has sci-fi sprinkled over, you know.
Okay, I like that answer a lot. And last but not least, zombies or vampires?
I think vampires, because they, at least in the representation and the fiction, they have more variety than zombies, I guess.
Okay.
You know.
Okay, fair
But
enough.
I like
Good.
zombie apocalypse games too. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. No, I would go with vampires as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so you can answer questions. That's very good. That means that you would make a really bad politician, but that's fine. Okay, let's go a little bit into. You are probably the best known Brazilian RPG author, because I don't know any others.
No, there are many others, right?
Okay. I don't know that. And I bet you anything that most people don't know either. But correct me if I'm wrong, there is a massive RPG scene in Brazil. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, I can't say it's massive because, RPGs are like a niche hobby. And even in the US, like the board game market, it's much bigger than the RPG market. So it's the same thing in Brazil. We have like a bigger board games and tabletop, like card games market, and RPGs are like a small portion of it. But like compared to even though other countries from South America specifically, it's really big compared to like Argentina or Chile or Uruguay and other countries. It's pretty big, and we have some really strong Brazilian RPGs in the market that like really competes a little bit with D&D, although the fifth edition came in Brazil like in 2020, and it's really strong now too. But we have many other authors. I mean, I don't know if I'm the most well-known internationally, but here in Brazil, I'm not one of the most well-known in Brazil.
That's interesting. What are Brazilian games like? Because apart from yours, I only know of one Brazilian RPG that was designed, and I cannot even remember the name of it for the life of me. But it was designed by the Ministry of Culture for players to play as indigenous people from Brazil in pre.
It's the Elephant and Macaw banner.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, because this game was released through a program of the Ministry of Culture, but wasn't created by them, the Elephant and Macaw banner. And you can play as indigenous people, but you can play as black people or people from Europe. It's set on our colonial past, like in the 15th, 16th century. And you can play off the different people that came to Brazil at that time, and it's based on our folklore. So you face creatures from our folklore, and the shamans from the the indigenous people have spells. We have spells from people from the African cultures, like the Orishas, and they have like priests, like and the same thing from Europe. We'll have like the priests or even witches and things like that. So that may be this one, and this one was released in English too recently. So maybe that's the one. I don't know.
Yes, and that is, I knew about that game about 2 or 3 years ago when I was publishing books in Spain, because I thought that would be a really cool book to license and publish. But it is literally the only, apart from yours, the only game from Brazil that I have ever seen. What are Brazilian games like?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention some of my partners here in Brazil, that we have like a little group that we share information. We're all publishing in English too, and we try to boost each other work. So we have like Lucas Ronin, Thiago Ronin, Guilherme Gondito, o Alex Damasceno, o Matheus Guax. They're all people there are on Twitter, and we're always tweeting stuff. And we recently came up with a hashtag together with Maria and other people from Latin America called RPG Latam, like hashtag RPG Latam, to promote RPGs from Latin America, Brazil, or Mexico, or Argentina, or Uruguay. And there are lots of Latin American creators like putting our stuff out there. And we had a hashtag for Brazilian. We had Brazilian OSR. That was BroSR, but we felt it was kind of like kind of sexist, because it's BR because of Brazilian and OSR, but if you read, it was BroSR, and it was like, let's look for something else.
Fair enough, indeed. That could have been misinterpreted very, very quickly. Yeah. So tell me, what's the RPG culture in Brazil like?
Well, the first RPG I played was in 1994. I was 10 years old. Was Tagmar, which was the first RPG published in Brazil, and it was a Brazilian RPG. That had some similarities with D&D, but it was mixed with some. It looked like a mixture of AD&D with Marvel heroic, Marvel superheroes, because they had that table, that colored table, with the roll and see like your effect and stuff. And it was really cool. And then I played other games from Brazil, like Desafio dos Bandeirantes, which is really similar to the Elephant and Macau banner, but it was way in the early 90s. And then I got to play D&D and other games here. And the RPG market in Brazil, it's really, there is one really like dominant game that's a Brazilian game called Tormenta, which like until last year that they're releasing a new edition, was basically D&D 3.5, like Pathfinder, like remade D&D, Tormenta remade D&D, but with a more like fantasy with anime influences, like this Japanese comics and animation, And now they released a new edition that's still like a D20 system, but with some streamlining. But then there is a huge market for translated RPGs like D&D, Call of Cthulhu, Dungeon Crawl Classics, which I translated to the Brazilian market. I was a translator. And I don't know, we're releasing old school essentials here, Forbidden Lands, Tales from the Loop. So it's really, that's another big part of the market. And then there's a small part, which are like the independent publishers in Brazil, like small people publishing games like me, like Jorge Valpassos, which is an author I really admire in Brazil. And if I ever move out of Brazil, I want to start a publisher to publish games from other people from Brazil to the international market, because he mainly is publishing Portuguese, but he has some really great games. We have Thiago Jungas that makes a lot of solo RPGs. We have a really growing community of solo gaming.
That's quite interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, we have this guy called Tarcísio, which promotes a lot of solo RPGs. Like, he has a big community on Facebook. It's really well moderated. It's really active. He's always posting stuff. People are always making like hacks and creating new content, basically for free. And some people like then makes like a better worked out edition and then release it to sell and get some money. With, of course, it's totally viable. And so it's a really strong community. It was really well moderated and really well curated to create content constantly. So that's a really strong point. We have a strong OSR community too, which kind of I started and now has a lot of big names here in Brazil promoting it with like really well listened to podcasts, people releasing more games, and there's other people promoting too, and we have like a more narrative, like story game kind of community too. And for a while, the OSR and the story games didn't really connect very much, but it's something that's worked on over time. But
so it sounds like there is, from the point of view of the diversity of the games themselves, it sounds like Brazil is quite a mature market where lots of different genres of games in terms of mechanics and mechanisms can actually find a market.
Yes.
Which is quite interesting. I know that this is a very tricky question, but how many players do you think there are in Brazil?
I don't know. I would say, because I'm really concentrated in small indie OSR and story games and solo RPGs, and I don't look much I don't play D&D or Tormenta or many big titles, but considering how successful Tormenta is, and they had a crowdfunding campaign that made a lot of money, like millions of reais, which are currency here. I would say maybe 20,000 or something players potentially. I think.
Okay, that's not a bad number at all. What about the games you make? What kind of games are you interested in writing?
Well, I like all kinds of games. I really love the OSR, but I really like more narrative games too. I like Fates a lot. I like Cortex Prime from the Firefly RPG, and then they have like a new one, Cortex Prime. And Fiasco influenced me, Dungeon Crawl Classics, and Edge of the Empire, the Genesis game. So my games are like a amalgam of very different kinds of games, but still trying to keep the what they call them, like the old school style, like the more challenging players, and the rules don't have all the answers, so you have to use creativity a lot. And they're usually games that have simple but flexible rules that allow the game master to create things almost on the spot with very little preparation in advance that you need. But I like to explore like more narrative games too. I recently released a game that you can play with your family or son. I was lost in the fantasy world. It was almost kind of a minimalistically fate, because we only had like aspects, and you play with basically 5 aspects that you gain dice or lose dice depending on how these aspects work, So I try to and most of my games explore things that I liked when I was a kid, like Star Wars, Thunder the Barbarian, those heavy metal comics, Metal Horror, and I mean, pop culture really influences me a lot, and I try to mix them and match. For example, my Dark Streets and Darker Secrets game had a bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, X-Files, Green. So you have fairy tales there. You have like aliens and supernatural stuff. You have a little bit of Chilling Tales of Sabrina. You have like hunting monsters. So you can, when they say like originality is when you steal from a lot of people, and plagiarism is when you steal from just one.
That's a very, very fair enough indeed. What is the OSR community like in Brazil? Because in the English-speaking market, there's been a ginormous amount of controversy within the OSR community that now a group of people are trying to clean up as much as possible. Have you all been impervious to that, or have you also faced some controversies with OSR in Brazil?
Well, we see the controversy on the international markets because they were big names in the OSR scene, like Lamentation of Fun Princess, all these people that do stuff there, and there's RPG Pundits, which is from Uruguay, which is right down here, and you have the other guy, Venger something, and so we see that, and sometimes there's discussion, but we try to moderate it to keep it civil, but when people like try to promote some of these actors, we try to at least warn them, okay, but you should know about this and this, and try to post some posts for people at least to be informed what's going on, but I mean, controversy inside our community, there isn't much, at least that I'm aware of, but we try to take. There is a community in the Facebook group, which is like OSRPG, which is really well moderated. It's like tries to promote the game for everyone. The DCC community is really, really progressive in this too, and I was really like a DCC evangelist here in Brazil, and I try to take that as an example for our community. And I try to always there's always this battle against old school games are better than new games, and I try to say we don't have like to bash other games to promote our store games. You can talk what we like about them and why we like them, and not like bad mouthing other people, other types of games and stuff. So we try to always when this kind of stuff pops up in our community, we always cut it short. So
it sounds like you do take a pretty proactive role in making sure that the bad blood is kept to a minimum.
Yeah, we try to inform people like, what this happens. You can take your own conclusions, but here's what people saw and people said, and this kind of stuff. Yeah.
What actually, talking about that diversity, what's the diversity like in role-playing games in Brazil? Are there many female players? Is it a mostly male-dominated market?
There is a lot of male players. There's LGBTQ community. There's groups that are focused on these minorities to promote games, especially for them. We have events that are made for only women, and so they organize it themselves. Then sometimes men can go there and play too, but they're usually not as dungeon master or not as game masters. So try to promote women taking more control over the game. And we have transgender authors here. I have a lot of people from black people publishing games too. There are LGBTQ authors also creating games and engaging these topics on the market as well. Unfortunately, I don't see many of them trying to release their games in English to the international market. But here in our own country, there's a lot of people doing that.
That I find quite interesting because, let's face it, Brazil of recent has had some really bad reputation because of its politics. And since Bolsonaro came up, has that affected, the rise of the right in your country? Has that affected what the RPG community has been like? How?
Well, there's sprouted some pages called RPG Alpha, which was like a misogynist promoting page that would post like naked elves and stuff like that, and
classic.
Yeah, I don't know what people are trying to prove. I don't know. The discourse against politically correct speech, and usually those people do a lot of bad things and they get booted out of most communities, and they start making their own politically free communities, which are more like extremely right-wing communities, but they say it's politically free, but it's not. And there has been some bad actors promoting this kind of things that it's a mirror from the world, right? We see like right-wing radicalism rising in the US and then in the UK and then here in Brazil, and they try to, I don't know, I don't understand this male gamer necessity to prove that they like pictures of naked elves. I don't know.
It is quite baffling. Has it affected the way that you design games, though? What goes around you, has that shaped in any way how you write your games and how you play them?
Oh yeah, I try to write all my games using, at least in English, using the neutral they pronoun. I try to always depict men and women in active imageries and not trying to sexualize neither of them. And I try to avoid, even I like making sword and sorcery. I really like sword and sorcery, but I know sword and sorcery is a lot more than like barbarians rescuing nude women, so I try to many of the images I drew for sharpsword and sinister spells was with a female lead, like a warrior woman, and try to reinforce these things and when I can, because I don't have really a big budget, but I try to hire people from different demographics, like people from the LGBTQ community and people from the Black community, and try to share a little bit of the small success I had and try to lift other creators up as I can. I'm really a small fish in in a big pond, but I try to share a little bit of what I got, I guess.
That's a beautiful thing. Okay,
when did you start publishing in English? Because I've taken a quick glance at your drive-through RPG storefront, and you have a lot of material there.
Well, I am from old school publishing, and I publish it through Gala Night Games. So I don't know if you've seen Gala Night Games. Gala Night Games has a lot of stuff, and mine is more the old school publishing stuff. And I have a few titles outside of old school publishing, but I started on November 2016.
Okay.
And I published Sharp Sword and Sinister Spells, which was my first actually published role-playing game. I published it first in English and then in Portuguese. And then I started.
That's interesting. Why?
It's way simpler to publish in English than in Portuguese, especially because print on demand. You just put on the site and then print it and they send it to people. Here in Brazil, you have to go to all this bureaucracy to publish stuff. So for me, it was easier to just publish it in English. And I wanted to reach like a larger community and be part of a community I really enjoyed, because I was there on Google Plus and in DTC community, and I see a lot of people doing like this do-it-yourself games and zines and putting their materials out there for people to play and see and share. And I really wanted to be part of this communal experience of sharing content and making something. And even it was super professional, I wanted to be a part of this movement. So I published first in English, and most of my games they just have an English version and doesn't have a version in Portuguese yet.
Okay, that's fair enough indeed. What has the experience like being for you publishing in English?
It has been nice. I mean, there's another reason I don't stuff in Portuguese, because I don't know if because the market is small and you know everybody and inevitably hear things they say about you. But my feeling is there's a lot more backstabbing in the Brazilian RPG authors community, like people betting mouthing one another. Then I see that in the international community. Maybe because I don't know many people like personally, so they don't tell me what bad things people are saying about me. But I feel the international community is much more welcome, and Brazil has a really, really bad thing that thinks that everything that's international is better than what is made here, like in games, in everything. They think what is made out there is always better than what's made here. So that's another reason I published there. And it has been really great. I made many friends. My first time I went to Gen Con, I think it was 2014, and I was completely alone, and I played Dungeon Crawl Classics, and then some guys from the Dungeon Crawl Classics community just sent me a message. Oh, we're here at this pub. Come hang out with us. And I made friends, and this is the community. It's a big thing for me. It's like I'm also second family.
It's quite interesting hearing you say that, because your experience in the Brazilian community, it's very similar to my experience in the Spanish community. I've published a few books in Spanish and then decided I really don't want anything to do with this. And now I'm starting to publish all those books in English because it's a bit, Jesus, I mean, this is a very small community. And why are we hating each other so much?
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case when it should be the other way around? You and I, we have very small communities in our countries. It's very easy to know everybody, to see. I mean, Brazil is way bigger than Spain. But for us, we see each other all the time at conventions or, game fairs. And yet it's a horrific atmosphere. Why do you think that is the same in Brazil?
I don't know. I think because especially the indie market, with smaller than the more popular titles, I don't know if people think that the public's so small that if there is another good author out there, they will siphon the sales from them. I don't know what's the mentality behind this, but I remember there was a really uh, a big publisher, well, not I'm big in the indie terms, that published like a Western game that's really popular in Brazil. And when I started writing, I had a blog that was kind of big, and it still is kind of big here. I started writing my game on the blog, and they said, "Watch out for Diogo. He may be our enemy because he's making a new Western game." And I was like, what the fuck? And I supported their game. I talked about their game and stuff. But I was just making another one, and suddenly I was like, watch out for him. He's our rival now. And I was like,
That must have been quite painful.
Yeah, it is.
God,
that has happened some really bad stuff in Brazil. I mean, I have games and people are releasing it in Portuguese, and I say, I don't know if any publisher here wants to license it for me and publish it in Portuguese. I'm all in for that, but I won't spend my own time translating it and releasing it here because the stress and the infighting it's not worth for me.
I empathize with you so much. I can assure you so much. Okay, tell me a little bit about your games. What is the for you, what is the best game that you have written? What's your favorite?
Wow, that's a really hard question. Like, what's your favorite son? I mean, I'm really proud of Solar Blades and Cosmic Spells because of its structure. It's like a simple yet very flexible system that is easy to play, easy to create content for, and has a really big tools for you to create your own universe, create adventures, create monsters, and create everything for like the really this weird fantasy sci-fi with rev metal influences. Although today I would like to make it really better in terms of layouts and art, but my budget in 2017 I was able to make, and I'm really proud of the three my three recent releases, like the trilogy of zines that's focused on horror and survival, which is Screams Amongst the Stars, which is like a weird sci-fi horror game that it's not really a copy of Alien, so it's not only chest-butting, flesh-eating aliens. There is weird stuff like distortion of time and space and weird ruins and events in the space that you can explore. There's also Running Out of Time, which is like a cyberpunk anti-capitalist game where time is literally money. So you begin the game with 1d6 days left to live.
Nice.
And like a cup of coffee costs 10 minutes, and you work to get more time to live. And you only gain experience if you share time with other people. And the Dead Are Coming, which is like a zombie apocalypse RPG, I always wanted to play. It's hard. It's a really simple system, but it's hard to survive. It's resource management, community building, and really surviving like in the end of times. And the way they look, like the layout, the way they organize it, I'm really proud of how they turn it out.
That sounds amazing. And I have to say that anti-capitalism game sounds absolutely fascinating. Tell me a little bit more. How exactly does it work, starting with 1d6 days and only gaining more time if you actually spend time with other people?
No, you get more time. Time is money in there, like literally. So you do jobs, you get more time, but you get experience points. Like your character evolves if you share your time that you got doing jobs with other people, like you share with your parents, with your partner, with other people from your community. That it's like a dystopian future. So your community explored. People are like working just to get by, to get on like another week to live, and your work is basically stealing from the rich, stealing from the corporations, sabotaging banks, and things like that.
I love the sound of that so much. Is it a big game, small game? What's the format?
It's small. It's a zine format, almost like A5. It's about 50 pages long. It's full color. And there's tables for you to generate districts, jobs, NPCs, and all sorts of things for you to play.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that, definitely, and see if I can have a one shot made of that game, because that sounds really really good.
Thank you.
That's quite okay. What would you like to do with role-playing games, though? Because as a prolific author, I get the feeling that you haven't written enough to say done. I don't need to do anymore. What would you like to do?
I have notes for more than 30 books that I still want to write. I use that OneNote app on the phone, and I always writing like stuff. I have an idea and I write stuff, and I want to explore a little bit of solo RPGs. As I said, I like to explore themes and things that I really liked it as a kid or a teenager. So I want to make like a solo dungeon crawling game inspired by the Diablo games. And I want to make I'm also an artist, and I do like inking and watercolor and stuff. I want to make a solo game about a guy that travels through the world, maybe through Europe, and is painting stuff on the way. I don't know. I want to make a lot of stuff. I want to support the games I have too, but I want to write new games. So that's a really a hard choice for me, because I don't have like all the time in the world. So I always have to decide, okay, I'm going to write a supplement for this, or I'm going to write this new idea that I had recently, or old idea that I have on my notes. I sometimes forget, and I start reading my notes. Oh yeah, I wanted to make this, and then I started working on it. Yeah.
What do you need in order to be able to write all those books?
Well, I would need to be able to live off my games, like being paid well enough, or maybe I have to have enough games on the market for their sales starting piling up to sustain me, because I have a day job and I write games on my spare time, and it's hard, I think. Yeah.
Okay. One last question, and this is probably a pretty hard one, but what would you say is what you want to contribute to the world of role-playing games overall?
I don't know. That's a really hard question, because I really love the books from Austin Kleon that wrote the Still Like an Artist and Show Your Work and Keep Going. And there's always this myth of the artistic genius that made something, contributed to the artistic community or the scientific community in a way that changed things. And he says there is space for everyone just making something, and this may inspire someone else to do it. And you don't have to be a genius to be an important part of any community. So I try not to. I'm a very anxious person. So if I start to think that I want to make an impact, or if I want to win an award, or if I want to do something, I'll start having really a bad time, because I'm really anxious. So I try to concentrate on just doing what I like, and promoting other stuff. Like one of the things that I really try to concentrate, and I think that's an important contribution, is that since now I have some visibility, I try to always give space to other people to promote their projects. Like have other authors from Latin America, and then try always to like doing threads on Twitter for people to post their stuff and sharing and retweeting. And if I have money to spare, I will support their projects. Like I mean, I have a lot of games behind me, and I try to support all other indie authors as much as I can. Like I really like to see what other people are doing. So maybe my contribution would be making more games, and maybe they inspire people to make some of theirs, because they're really personal games, things that I feel, things that I like. And I talk about creating stuff. I talk about the creativity process because that's something I enjoy reading and talking about. And the other part is trying to, since I got lifted up a little bit, I try to carry others with me if I can.
That is a very, very noble and worthy goal, my friend. Hopefully you'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's wrap up this interview. I have just three last questions. Just
the weird ones, right?
Yes, very weird ones indeed. Okay, question number one: what is the best advice that no one has ever given you?
Oh. I think it's the advice I would give myself. It was to start early and don't think too much about it. Don't try to make it perfect. Just do it, and next time you can do it better. And next time, every time you get better.
Okay, that's a very good one.
I wish I had started writing games before 2016.
Well, you know, you still have another 40 or 70 years ahead of you to write more games.
Yeah.
So that should do. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Question number two: what is the best mistake that you would like to make again?
Ooh. That's hard. Best mistake I'd like to make again. I don't know. I try to avoid mistakes, but yeah. Well, in my personal life, I work as a public servant. I was the manager of our division, and in my understanding, I found out some bad things that were being made, and I denounced it to the justice and the police, and my superiors sent me somewhere else because I probably was upsetting some scheme, and that place that I went, it's kind of more chill than the place I was. So I'm better. Well, I mean, in terms of work, I'm better in my new place than I was on the other place.
Okay, well, that's a painful mistake, but definitely worth it. Okay,
Yeah.
Last question. Imagine that you have a time machine and you go back in time and you meet your 10-year-old self and you say to your 10-year-old self, do not do this. What is this?
Maybe I would say do not become a public servant. I don't know, because I started writing games in 2016, and I can't avoid thinking about what if I had started doing this since college. You know, maybe I could be living off writing and art until today. But I didn't have much money, so I don't know if I would have a choice, because I only started having money after I got a public servant job.
Okay, well, that's fair enough, my
Yeah.
friend. I really hope that you'll continue, though, and I'm looking forward to taking a look at some of your games, and hopefully somebody will actually come to you and want to publish more games from you. It'd be good if some American companies came to you and got you writing.
Yeah, I hope so. I have some prospects for this year. It's looking nice, but they have to like become concrete for it to happen. But I have some good prospects, I think.
Well, hopefully you'll come back to tell me about them when they consolidate.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Good.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, my friend.
Thank you very much, my friend, for inviting me and talking to me about games and other stuff.
Anytime.
My life and in general.
Well, I am still pretty amazed at a game that uses time as a currency. An anti-capitalism game that uses time as a currency. That is so genius. I really love that. And I'm really looking forward to taking a look at that game and seeing what it actually is like and what it's all about. It would be interesting. If you have already played any of Diogo's games, please let us know. Send us your comments. I'd love to hear from you. Generally, it would be absolutely fantastic. If you want to be part of the show, by all means, do get in touch. I would love to interview you about your project and what you're doing, what you would love to do. Whether you are an author, an illustrator, an editor, I would love to hear from you. So get in touch through a Facebook page or through Twitter. But until the next time, genuinely thank you so much for being there, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.